I lost my first game of football in 1997 when I first started, and I didn't sleep that night. You know, we lost to Fulham the other night, I didn't sleep. So it's 27 years later, I haven't changed the way I deal with it.
Hey everyone, I'm here with Cinch today. Guys, it's great to sit down with you both. I feel like this is a very special moment in Spurs history. So, I mean, I just want to kick off firstly with, the start of your Spurs managerial career. I'd just love to hear, what are you most excited about?
Well, I mean, for me, England is the home of football, right? When I grew up, I watched all the games and now I'm here. And the women's football is kind of a new startup football where we're actually going to make sure that this football is staying as well. So I feel like it's the best league in the world, and actually in this amazing club to actually make something really important here. So I think it's a huge step for me to be coaching this team in the Women's Super League.
And you've already kicked off, obviously, in the Premier League. Kicked off very well.
Yeah, it's been a decent start. Obviously, great to be here. It's a fantastic football club. I mean, you guys will have a look around today, and both Robert and I probably feel pretty blessed to be working in this environment every day. And massive football club. And I guess for us, being new managers in the place, you kind of hope you get off to a good start. It's not always guaranteed, but pleased with the signs so far.
Now, I'd just love to go a bit back in time. What advice would you give yourself as you were starting out?
I think I will enjoy the ride. Don't be too rushing yourself. I was playing football and I didn't really succeed as a player. I was good, but I didn't really take the next step to be a pro abroad. So I started to be a coach quite early, and I was like, I need to get to the top quickly. But then I realized you need the knowledge. You need to take every step in a time, and you need to learn during the journey. And I still think I'm going to do that. I was so stressed out back there. So I'm thinking cool down. You're going to have the whole life to be a coach. So that's my main advice, I would say.
For me, it's just, you listen to all the advice you're given, and in the end, take your own. The nature of what you do, there's an element of it where people try and change you. The game tries to change you because we're all trying to, win games of football and be successful. And the road to that success is different for everyone. And I think in the end, like I said, you kind of listen to all the advice, but ultimately you follow your own instincts. And when I've done that, things have pretty much worked out okay.
You get so much inspiration from people, and then you use what you want to use, and then you can take a gut feeling. People come with advices, but you don't take all the advices, but you use them to filter, and then you take your gut feeling, right?
Have either of you ever taken any advice from former players when they're like, oh, Ange or Robert, maybe this, or you a bit like, nah, just kind of bin it off and be like, I'm going to stick to what you both know?
I mean, I always take advice from a lot of people, but I tell them that I'm not probably going to follow it. So don't be upset if I don't follow your advice, but I need advices to make sure I take the right decision. So I take a lot of advices from different people, players, coaches, friends, but then I take a choice after that. So that's my way to see it.
It's similar. I mean, I always listen to my wife, but apart from that, I think, Robert's right. And I think part of it is also, the person offering the advice, do they sort of really understand? Because I'm always reluctant to give advice to people unless I really know their situation. Sometimes until you sort of, to use a quote, walk a mile in the person's shoes, you don't really know what they're going through. And sometimes your advice from the outside looks pretty logical, but you don't really understand. So, I'm really careful about the advice I give, and also very careful about the stuff I receive. Is
there any player in history that you would have loved to have managed, or, maybe, still could, manage in the future?
I mean, I look really much forward to work with Bethany England here, because I think she's one of the greatest players in women's football. So and those young girls coming up now who is really high potential, and that they can be this professional and actually develop. But history-wise, I mean, in Sweden we had Zlatan Ibrahimovic, which was one of the best players. So of course it would be fun to work or coach him, but it's that's the biggest one we have in Sweden, though. Yeah.
And how about yourself?
Get Diego and just let him do stuff, and I could just watch the game and enjoy it. Give him the ball and away you go.
And any players that you've worked with that you think would make good managers, that you'd be like, oh, you know what, come alongside me and I can teach you the ropes?
I think that's a tricky one, because normally they can be clever, they can have good stuff in it, but it's so hard to be a manager. So I think you need to see during the journey if they are the right possibility. But everybody have knowledge about football, and everybody have something, but to be a real manager, to lead people, there's not so many players I can see on the field that they're going to become a good manager. They can be a coach, but in the long run, I'm not really sure. So that's a tricky one, actually.
Yeah, I agree. I think you don't really know, and I don't think as a player you know either, because you're so, it's only natural. You're so focused on yourself and performance, and if you've played well, you're usually happy. Even if the team's lost, at least you take comfort in that, and it's a whole different dynamic. And we've seen it in the past. Great players don't make great managers necessarily, and the flip side, there's been plenty of players who haven't really reached the heights in their playing career but ended up being fantastic managers. And part of that's just understanding that, the struggle of being a player or being a manager in elite sport. And, for all of them, I keep saying the same thing. And, Robert said at the start is any young manager I talk to, I just say to them, build a career. Don't worry about getting a job. Just build a career and take your time doing that.
I think, Robert, you made a really good point about leading well, because it's actually people when the helm of what both of you do. And people skills, sometimes can be a bit underrated, but obviously in the nature of what you both do, it's the pinnacle, right? It's the absolute pinnacle. And I'd be intrigued to know, who influenced your managerial style, if any at all?
Normally, the first thing I did when I became a coach was to not follow the coach I had. It was more like, what did I want when I was a young player that I didn't get? So I started there, basically. I think my life journey is what I pick up stuff. When I meet you, when I meet Ange, when I meet someone. So it's not one person that I want to copy or follow. It's more like every day I meet new people, and I get more experience, and then I find my way to be the one I want to be, basically.
Yeah.
And especially how I wanted to have a coach when I was younger. I'm trying to be that kind of coach for the players I have. So that's my everyday development to try to just find my own way, not finding someone else's way.
And just last question for you both is just, what has been your biggest learning experience? And Robert, if you'd lead, just in your management career so far.
Every step I've taken, from semi-professional to professional in the men's football, and then going over to the women's football and try to understand that it's still football and everything, but we are still different between the genders, and you need to know the history of women's football to understand how you should reach the players, because they haven't had the same ability to be professional and so on. So I think when I took the step from the men's football to the women's football, that first year was a lot of learning by doing, but also listening to them and their stories, and add female coaches to my crew, because I needed that information to be better. Then it's still football, then it's still press, it's build up and everything, but it's more like, how can you know something historical and use that so you make sure you help them to develop. So that's my biggest journey as a leader, is to actually switch from men's football to women's football, I would say.
Brilliant. And lastly, Ange.
I guess for me, I learnt pretty early on to embrace the part of the role that most people from the outside would see as, they call it pressure, or how you deal with the scrutiny and the constant sort of questioning of everything you do. And I learned pretty early on to embrace that side of it, that's part of what we do, and not to kind of push it away or try and somehow find a space where that doesn't exist. That's part of who we are. So again, I keep telling young managers, I lost my first game of football in 1997 when I first started, and I didn't sleep that night, because you're constantly going through your head, what you could have done differently, whether it was training, preparation. We lost to Fulham the other night, I didn't sleep. So that's 27 years later, I haven't changed with the way I deal with it. And as long as I'm doing it, that's how it'll be. I haven't tried to sort of resist that, and I think that helps me then cope, because the reality of it is, in the 27 years I've been doing this, the sort of 13, 14 months where I was out of a job, in between jobs, was the most unhappiest I've been. So that tells me that when I'm in a role, that's when I'm happiest, so I embrace all of it.
This is where Ange is meant to be. This is where he's meant to be. Well, Robert, Ange, thank you so much for sitting down with me. Some really insightful things there. Thank you.
Thank you.